Former Independent Police Investigative Directorate head Robert McBride claims lies were peddled by some officers during ex-crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli's corruption case. He was testifying before Parliament's ad hoc committee, which was established to probe allegations of criminal infiltration in police. McBride alleges that former Gauteng Hawks boss General Shadrack Sibiya was also targeted. For more on this, we are joined by independent crime analyst Dr. Kock and Unisa's senior policing lecturer, Professor Mpho Matlala. Send us your comments and questions on 072-110-5584, or you can give us a call on 010-594-6010, or engage with us on X at Newzroom 405. Doc, Prof, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. So we are unpacking the proceedings that we witnessed today with Robert McBride before the ad hoc committee in Parliament. Perhaps let's start with you, Doc. Right at the beginning, there was just some back and forth between parliamentarians and Robert McBride with regards to his demeanor, his behavior, some of them just talking about the gestures that he was making towards the parliamentary members. Just talk to us with regards, especially also his refusal at the very beginning to disclose his current employment. Dr. de Kock?
Well, good evening to all the viewers. And yeah, well, he impressed me quite a bit. I didn't expect it. I know him, but for many years ago, and but he impressed me with his evidence. And that thing right at the beginning, I think that atmosphere was created between two political parties who tried to score points with each other, which is a pity. It's actually degrading the commission or the committee, which I'm highly impressed with. I think that created the atmosphere for the first half an hour to nearly an hour, which wasn't very conducive for the whole proceedings. I think it was wrong of him to not take the commission in confidence with his CV and to say that the CV is outdated. And in the end, it was clear that he is involved in SSA. So I don't know why not from the beginning he didn't mention that. Then also, I think he's, you know, I mean, he have a smile, he have some facial expressions. I don't think he is negative towards the commission or the committee. So I'm quite impressed up to now. But actually, what really were impressive was the last few minutes this evening when things really went rough. And I just think this is what we can expect tomorrow, that things will not be as smooth as today when he was led through the evidence. Tomorrow, under pressure, we will see what will really happen.
Yeah. But, Prof, maybe you just give us your take on him as a witness. How did you find Robert McBride in putting together and putting forth his testimony today?
Thank you and good evening to the viewers. Well, I beg to differ with the doc there. I wasn't impressed at all. For example, if you look at his attitude and demeanor generally, you know, Robert McBride is a politician. He's a struggle veteran, you know, and he's from that class of the Jackie Silebis, the Shabir Sheikh, the Tony Yengenis, egocentric type of politicians, and extremely arrogant to a point. And of course, some of them we were then to understand that that ego was just something to hide behind in order to push for systemic looting and corruption. And you know, giving an outdated CV, this is where I agree with the prof, with the doctor there. You know, it's not that he's poorly prepared. He's somewhat charismatic, very eloquent in how he expresses himself, and I'll give that to him. But an outdated CV was rather a concealment of information. And indeed, I also agree that, of course, he's with the state security agents. What we don't know is whether he's a NOC, which is a non-official cover, or an asset. An asset is somebody who is working under another field agent, and and a NOC is somebody who's got no official ties to the state, and because then the state has an opportunity for plausible deniability if he's caught, which would then which would then explain why he would invoke the Intelligence Act to say he cannot disclose. I think for me, he's a very dodgy character who talks of everyone, who labels everyone a liar when truth and lies are really subjective. His truth, his lies, it's not somebody else's truth and lies. And I think the chickens will come to roost tomorrow.
And just on that, Professor, I mean, you say that you found him to be quite egocentric. Even the EFF described him as indifferent. How do you perceive indifference or that non-cooperation for the integrity of the criminal justice system and this process, how important it is for us really to be getting down to the truth?
Look, people like Robert McBride will never tell you everything, and you even people with an intelligence background, if they told you today was the 20th of January 2026, you might want to check whether they are referring to the Gregorian calendar or the Ethiopian calendar, which is 2018 in Ethiopia. So you never know where they stand. And when you look at his historical background, I will not mention the 1986 Magoo bombing in Durban, because there it was under the struggle and he received amnesty from the TRC. He's a struggle hero, but clearly he's capable of killing. But there were allegations of corruption and mismanagement during his tenure at IPID. 1998, he was arrested for gun trafficking in Mozambique and released without a charge, and we suspect diplomatic or political intervention there. Then there was an assault on an employee of an escort agency in 1999, and there he was operating with Cyril Bika, I think, which is a known criminal underworld figure. Then 2006, drunken driving and a car accident. Then also accused of controversial leadership and autocratic leadership style, which is really what caused tension between him and some of the ANC comrades. So whilst you can look at Robert McBride as a technocrat, he is a politician to the core, and we know the egocentrism that is normally associated with political characters.
So, Doc, I mean, you have a completely different outlook towards Robert McBride in terms of what you witnessed today as him taking on the stand. How imperative is he as a witness in this process?
Look, first I want to say I agree with all the incidents mentioned now by the professor. I mean, I know of all of those incidents. I was in the police at that stage when all of those things happened. The gun running, or the allegations of gun running, the incident in the escort agency, and all of those things. But I'm just looking at him today as a witness in front of this committee, and in all probability he will go to the Mhlanga Commission. And I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about the background of the Magoo bar and all of those. That's a different issue. And you see, I always said for the last 3 months since your station, I think you were the first TV channel that had an interview with me at the Mhlanga Commission on the day that the minister, died in France. That was the first interview. And from that first moment, I say, we have to realize that everybody appearing for the commission and the committee, I mean, everything that we hear is allegations.
Yes.
Every single word is an allegation. All of these things in the end will have to be proved in a court of law. Right from the beginning, from General Mangwanazi right through to what we saw today and what we will see tomorrow, everything is allegations. I just say that he mentioned quite a few things, which is a lot of fruit for thought
And maybe
today.
let's get into that, Doc. I mean, you mentioned earlier that what really impressed you was the evidence that he presented. So what really stood out for you in terms of the highlights in what he presented in his testimony?
Well, what impressed me, or what at least in a sense shocked me, and again confirmed that we hear a lot of stories, a lot of allegations, and in the end it have to be proved. One of the things was his mentioning of a certain investigator, Mandla Mashlangu, who was eventually killed. And there was actually 2 hits on his life. The first hit didn't succeed, and then in the second hit he was killed. And he referred to it that General Mangwanazi, Lieutenant General Mangwanazi, now the PC of KwaZulu-Natal, who started this whole thing in July last year, was quite close with this IPID investigator. And that he was the first to be on the scene of both hits, the unsuccessful one and the one where Mandla was then eventually killed. And that because he was quite a close friend, there was an expectation that he would be at the funeral. Now that, in a sense, raises many questions with me. And we will see how he will handle this specific issue tomorrow. He also mentioned that the previous minister, not Minister Cele, but the one before him, actually employed a Zimbabwean, a undocumented immigrant in his office as the chief of staff. So he mentioned quite a few things which was quite shocking, above all the shocks that we have already experienced and heard in the last 3 months. I think it's about 3 months now. I mean, these are the things that I'm looking at. And we will see tomorrow if whatever he mentioned was actually standing. He also made no secret of it that he doesn't agree with General Paslane, which also impressed me last week with his evidence. But everybody impressed me. But as I say, everything have to be tested in court, and then we will see who's who in this whole game.
Most certainly. Prof, maybe you can touch on just some of these pieces of evidence that Doc is speaking on with regards to Robert McBride's testimony today. What really stood out for you or created a different narrative from what we've been hearing since that very first briefing by Commissioner Mkhwanazi?
I think, like the Doc, I was also impressed with the issue of him bringing up the IPID investigator who was killed, but from a different context. My context is that, yet again, that proved really the rot, how deep the rot goes within the criminal justice system or within the police itself. And well, obviously, General Mkhwanazi being a close friend to the slain IPID investigator, I think the Doc said it was Mandla, and being a close friend and not attending the funeral. I think from a criminal perspective, it's neither here nor there. I think I'm yet to get the connection unless there is evidence to suggest to possible reasons why General Mkhwanazi stayed away. But I do agree that it does raise eyebrows, but at this point in time, it does not necessarily bear any suggestion of malfeasance or wrongdoing or criminality. And I was very happy, like the dog, when he spoke about former Minister Mthethwa, God rest his soul, having hired an illegal immigrant. And I have always and consistently, since the 6th of July, the famous explosive media by General Mkhwanazi briefing, I've always maintained that all of these things, I am scared for national security. And if you can have an illegal immigrant working as chief of staff in the office of the minister, we really are in trouble.
No, we certainly are. We certainly are. Gentlemen, let's just hold the conversation there for now. We're going to take a quick ad break. We are discussing that first appearance by the former IPID head, Robert McBride, at the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee today. So do stay with us. Send us your questions, your WhatsApps, your comments, and also give us a call. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. We are dissecting the former IPID head, Robert McBride, facing the ad hoc committee today. I'm joined by crime intelligence analyst, Dr. Kock, as well as Unisa's senior policing lecturer, Professor Mpho Matlala. You can send us your comments and questions on WhatsApp to 072 110 5584 or give us a call on 010 594 6010. All right, so Doc, we were discussing just a little earlier with regards to the state of the rot, and at some point it seems as though Robert McBride sort of described a situation where state capture is something that really started many years ago and has really been something that's been growing, especially within the South African Police Service for quite some time.
Yeah, can I just put one thing in perspective? I don't think this was the Chief of Staff of the late Minister Nathi Ntetwa. I think that was Jenny Irish Kobashane, which died tragically in a motor car accident sometime last year, the beginning of the year. This was Minister Katlego. I don't know if I always struggle to pronounce that surname.
That's correct.
The minister between Nathi Ntetwa and Mr. Cele or General Cele. I think there was the problem. Then on the rot, yeah, I mean, I think for 3 months now, I think it's nearly 3 months, or it may just be over 3 months since the commission started and then the ad hoc committee started, or they started before. We actually hear basically daily, except now over the Christmas season, of the rot and all the allegations that occurred. And I think South Africans, and I think many South Africans listen to all of these. If they don't listen to the whole, I mean, they don't have time to listen to the whole day, as I have done. But actually, even if they listen to the summaries and they listen to people like myself and the Prof, I think people are now very confused. I think South Africans are very confused, and they may just start to believe what was said by General Khumalo, Lieutenant General Khumalo, last week. I think it was on Thursday, when he said that you can't trust any police officer in Gauteng. Now, I differed from him very strongly, because I know of many police officers in Gauteng which I can trust. I will trust them. So even here in my own station. So I can't believe that statement. But I think South Africans by now are really feeling, who should I trust? Should I trust General Mangwanazi, or should I not trust General Mangwanazi? Personally, I trust him, but we will still have to see.
Like you say, it certainly needs to be tested. And just speaking on that state of rot that certainly has gone to the extent that they are describing it to, Prof, he also speaks about how General Sibiya was targeted after arresting Richard Mdluli. What did you take from that part of his testimony?
You know, with politicians, everything is about factions. And Look, General Sibiya, in arresting General Mdluli, um, really did a good job. But him having said that, I'm not saying then we should start, because somebody did a good job, we should then start overlooking some of these allegations that have come out from the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc um, committee. The point of the matter that I'm trying to say is that the infiltration of our law enforcement agencies by criminal syndicate is so deep that even the best of cops at some stage would then fall prey into bribery and corruption. And you know, I like the point that the doc has made to say, although police trust in police is at an all-time low, we cannot accept a generalized statement to say the majority of police or almost all police officials in Gauteng are corrupt. In fact, just like the dog, I know quite a number of police officials who I can trust with my life. And if I had their permission, I would be speaking of their names. I think it's just a matter of a choice of words that were used, and that boiled down to a methodological premise to say you are generalizing when in fact perhaps maybe a better choice of words would that the majority of police officials that we have encountered in our investigations are corrupt, you know, rather than putting it broadly there as a generalized statement. But I think it was purely a methodological argument, and which emanated from a choice of words, really.
And Doc, he also went to describe the former chief of staff for the minister that is on special leave, Cedric Nkabinde, as an unreliable witness. He spoke a lot about how he also had previously warned the minister Mchunu of Cedric Nkabinde, saying he cannot be trusted. What did you make of him discrediting Cedric as a witness in that way?
Well, look, this is not the first time this is happening in the commission or the ad hoc committee. I mean, people call each other bad names, and they call each other liars, and this is how it works. And that is why I say all of these things in the end will have to be tested. When I listened to Mr. Nkabinde, that was the end of last year somewhere, I was also impressed with him. And I thought that he's telling us a story which we can believe. But again, even then I had an interview and I said, no, but all of this will have to be tested. But clearly this is also not a very, the fact that he warned the minister and the minister ignored it is a very bad situation for me. I mean, I think the minister should have listened to the ex-head of IPID, under which Mr. Nkabinde worked. I mean, yeah, he's openly warned and he just ignored.
Yeah. Prof, Robert McBride at some point spoke about 23 senior police officers that during his tenure were on trial for various crimes. And he says this would have been a very pivotal moment in showing the accountability, especially from the side of SAPS, with regards to those that are within the service and are committing crimes and then being held accountable and prosecuted for those. What do you think then, as he mentions that many of them did not see to the very end with regards to these trials, what does this say about that state of accountability and where we really must have lost grip on ensuring that people within organizations such as the South African Police Service can also be held accountable?
On face value, really, if you're saying I have an X number of senior officers who are on trial and they've been charged and arrested by IPID and the cases are in court, from a quantitative perspective, that seems like really like you are inspiring confidence, but it's really the qualitative aspects that matter. The level of quality in terms of the investigation, the conviction rates, and all the other issues that are involved in the investigation of crime. All I'm saying is that in as much as I will not dismiss that as a hoax, because it is good work, it's always important to balance it and see it to an end. It's pointless really to say I've arrested 100 people and at the end of the day only one conviction with a suspended sentence because the judge or the magistrate or prosecutor has been bought off, because we now know that even the judiciary is having problems. Maybe just to qualify that about the judiciary, you'll have then seen, as an example, a judge who was arrested and charged over some International Pentecostal Holiness Church saga and stuff like that. So you can tell that the entire criminal justice system is problematic. The point that I'm making is that all this good work, we should rather not use it as propaganda, but go further to qualify it. And that's how you earn public trust. And right now, whether it's IPID or the police, public trust is at an all-time low.
It certainly is. And Doc, maybe just to get your parting shot on that with regards to the public trust and mainly on these two processes, the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Commission, in how we're seeing things rolling out from the testimonies that we are receiving. Do you think that public trust will ultimately be won given whatever the outcomes would be of these two processes?
I think public trust will only be won if they see people, some of these people, being found guilty and being put into orange uniforms and sent to jail. If we take it from the time of the late Commissioner Jackie Selebi, which Mr. McBride also referred to as his hero, he was sent to jail. Well, he didn't last very long in jail, and then he went to home under house arrest and unfortunately died there. But I mean, that was the only incident that I can remember. Oh, yeah, and Commissioner or General Mdluli, I worked under him, General Mdluli and Selebi. Mdluli was found guilty, but not on a corruption charge, not on the corruption of the Secret Services Fund. He was found guilty on a serious assault case and sent to with an orange uniform to jail for 2 years. I think he's out by now. The fact of the matter is the public will only have confidence or restore confidence the moment that they see that the guilty, the bad guys, are being found guilty and that they are sent to jail and that the good guys take over and rebuild the South African Police Service.
Well, tomorrow Robert McBride faces those questions from the Parliamentary Ad hoc Committee members. Certainly we are looking to see what more can we get from that testimony. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Dr. Kock, who's an independent crime and violence analyst, as well as Professor Mpho Matlala, a Unisa police senior practice lecturer. Thank you for your time. Well, we've got a few of your WhatsApp messages on our topic tonight. We've got Onaka Malebo in Boksburg, and Onaka says McBride was on point and sounded truthful. Patlani lied under oath and should go to jail. SA is in trouble. Thank you, McBride. Iponeng Mutaung says, hi Katlego, McBride is very dodgy. He is the same as Spia Nkunu. Fully agree with the Prof. Teddy says, I think Robert McBride's testimony before the SAPS inquiry was great. He seemed to know what he was talking about. Then we've also got one from Puledi Shoba from Khamasemola says, I watched Mr. McBride's testimony and wasn't so impressed by the manner he presented to the committee. As a former head of a very crucial institution in our democracy, he definitely would have done better. His testimony should assist in discovery of truth, but it doesn't appear as if the committee will derive any value from it. Last but not least, Napi says, Tobela, I don't agree with Robert's testimony today. He made some mistakes by not giving us names. We need to hear names, please. Well, we certainly do hope that through that Q&A session that he will have with those parliamentarians tomorrow, there will be some names coming out of that.